How would the mosque, the place of worship in Islam, be classified? Generally, architecture is classified according to 1. Material, 2. Function, and 3. Composition. In terms of 1. Material, mosques can be divided into 4 categories: earthen, brick, wooden, and stone. Nowadays we could add concrete, steel and glass, pneumatic cloth, and even plastic, but here I consider only traditional materials. Architecture has been always conditioned by materials produced in its locality. If a mosque is built of wood in a desert, the cost would be very high, due to transporting the material from far-off places. The same can be said in the case of constructing a stone mosque in a land lacking quarries. People in every region have developed architecture by using materials easily available on location and pursuing their possibilities to their maximum. Earthen mosques are most frequently seen in Africa. People erect them of clay mixed with fibrous materials such as straw by hand or trowel, forming walls and pillars. If some timber is available, wooden roofs are made; if not, they would be arch structures. When the 6th Khalifa, Walid I, reconstructed the Prophet's mosque in Medina in 705, the great mosques in Basra and Kufa had already been completed, so the Medina mosque adopted almost the same plan. Compared to the original Prophet's mosque, it became 4 times larger, but it was still very simple, with hypostyle halls surrounding a courtyard, or rather as if a courtyard was hollowed out from the central part of the great hypostyle hall. There are almost no expressive elements outwards on its outer walls, seeming to have no intention to make even the entrance portal imposing. Only some small entrance apertures were provided for practical purposes on the outer walls. As Muhammad's inclination must have reflected on these early mosques, it is assumed that he himself did not intend to make mosque architecture monumental. Thus, though the scale of mosques became larger, the mainstream was still pragmatic plain mosques. On the other hand, since Walid I was the Khalifa who constructed the first monumental mosque in Damascus, the Umayyad Mosque, he also embellished the interior of the Prophet's mosque in Medina with opulent mosaics. Since then, mosque architecture has worn an antinomic attitude. One is a bid to make mosques with simplicity and fortitude following Muhammad's original instructions, and the other is the tendency to make them magnificent in order not to be beaten by other religions for the acquisition of new believers. As this courtyard-type mosques, modeled after the Prophet's mosque, were erected far and wide in the Arabic world, they are called Arabic-type mosques. The Ibn Tulun Mosque in Cairo is its typical example, the worship hall of which is a homogeneous space with numerous pillars arranged methodically. Moreover, the other 3 sides of the courtyard are also made of the same elements such as pillars, arches, and their ornaments, although the direction of the arcades are different, and everywhere has the same flat roof at the same height, giving no difference wherever one worships. Only the space before the mihrab is heightened, capped with a small dome. As the ages elapsed, this dome was gradually enlarged in Persia and would become the major space in a mosque. Incidentally, as opposed to wooden beams built horizontally over columns in 4 quarters, lined up arcades of brick or stone naturally generate a certain definite direction. In spite of the fact that whether the arcades are in a parallel direction or at right angles to the Qibla wall, each generating a different impression of movement in the interior space of a mosque, it is quite strange that Arabic-type mosques have various directions without a fundamental principle. While in the case of Catholic churches, the arcades are always set in the direction of depth toward the apse, the architects of the Arabic-type mosques did not seem to give any attention to the direction of space. As a result, the other 3 rawaiq, cloisters, surrounding the trait of Arabic-type mosques, that everywhere from the courtyard to the rawaiq and haram is thoroughly continuous, is best incarnated by the Amr Mosque in Old Cairo. It is the oldest mosque in Egypt, built in 641, and holds well the original structural system and spatial features, in spite of having been enlarged and reconstructed several times. In this mosque, since its columns are monolithic ones brought from ancient buildings, they do not especially disturb the visibility through its entire interior space, giving an impression as if the flowing colonnaded space spreads infinitely. It was the introduction of ʟɪᴇᴇ, an architectural legacy of the pre-Islamic Sassanid dynasty, into the architectural composition of mosques by Persians that brought about an epochal development in the history of mosque architecture. In early times, builders made the central span of the arcades of worship halls facing courtyards moderately broader and higher than the others, stressing the central nave towards the mihrab. When an ʟɪᴇᴇ is set in this place, the courtyard comes to life at once. Although the ʟɪᴇᴇ during the Sassanid era had the function of a throne or an audience hall, functions not needed in a mosque, the form was adopted with the intention of formatively glorifying the mosques. When the central axis was thus accentuated, a counterpart came to be desirable on the opposite spot of the courtyard on this axis. Setting up another ʟɪᴇᴇ there opposite each other generated a double ʟɪᴇᴇ mosque.